Hi, my name is Kay, and welcome back to the New Teacher Cafe. And before we go on, get yourself a cup of tea or coffee so that we can start chatting about challenging classrooms. I thought we would start with challenging classrooms because I know when you start off as a new teacher, every classroom kind of feels like a challenging classroom because you come up against so many new things and new challenges. So I want to talk to you about how to handle really tricky or difficult classrooms. I want to start off by talking about my first classroom. I remember like it was just yesterday. Actually, they didn't even think I was going to make it. I had coaches as well. They were looking at me. They're like, we don't know if that teacher is going to make it. Partly because I had so much to learn in such a short time. So, in order for you to be successful in a classroom that may have tricky behaviors or students who have different levels and students who have different needs, the first thing that you need to know is you need to be prepared. Preparation. When you have a tricky classroom, you cannot wing it. You cannot come in the classroom, pick up a pacing guide or pick up a lesson and just teach. I learned the hard way with my first classroom. 2003, I had my first real classroom. I wasn't a student teacher. I was an intern. So I just went in the classroom and say, hey, put me in there. I can do it. And I did. And the first lesson I learned was preparation. That class was not a class that I could turn my head and start teaching away as things went on. I couldn't turn my back at that classroom because any and everything would have been happening behind me. So all my charts had to be prepared. My lessons, I had to do all the cognitive planning at home. I had to make sure that every little post-it or any little extra realia that I needed for that classroom was at my fingertips. So in order for you to be successful in a tricky classroom or a challenging classroom, you need to be prepared, specifically materials and also the cognitive piece where you know from this step, I'm going to go to the next step, and then I'm going to go to the following step. So that's my first tip, preparation. The second tip I have for you when you're working in a tricky classroom or a difficult classroom is pace matters. Some classes can handle you taking time to talk to a student separately about something completely different, and then you go back to the lesson and do some, and you go back and continue where you left off. Pace matters. So, for example, from warm-up of a math lesson, you started with your warm-up. From the warm-up to the direct instruction, from the direct instruction to partner collaboration, from partner collaboration to workbook. So it needs to be exactly, it's kind of, I'll say rhythmic, because first, second, third, and fourth. And some classes can handle extra airtime or extra space where you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to do next. So pace matters when you're working with a challenging classroom, partly because the kids know that you know what you're doing. When you don't know what you're doing, or they know. I would say kids can smell fear. They can smell like, okay, that teacher is still figuring it out. So that's why sometimes it's very difficult for some of our colleagues who are subs, because they have to go in a classroom and they have to figure out what the routines are and all the expectations just like that. So the kids tend to want to get away with things because they know that the teacher is still trying to figure it out. So my second tip is pace. First was preparation. Second is pace. My third and final tip for working with a challenging classroom is systems. You have to have clear systems in place in your classroom. I'll start off with my favorite system. I always love to have classroom jobs. Kindergartners have jobs in the classroom. First grade classroom has jobs. Third grade, whatever. The kids need to have some sort of ownership in the classroom and the running of the classroom and the expectation. So you need to have systems in the classroom. I suggest classroom jobs. Everybody knows what they're doing. Who is the materials manager? Who's the botanist who waters the plant? Who's the door holder? Who's the line leader? What is the line order? I've been in a lot of classrooms as a co-teacher or even sometimes as a coach, and and maybe I have to take over a class and I'm like, okay, where do you line up? The kids don't know. So you want to know, the kids need to know what's expected of them because there should be clear systems. There should be a system on how they come into the classroom. Where do their backpacks go? Do they have their journals on their desk right away when they come in the morning? Maybe those journals were put on their tables at dismissal when they packed up. So you want to have a specific system for how they go in the classroom, where they go, where they put their backpacks. Do they go get pencils? Are pencils already available sharpened? Is there a pencil monitor? So my third and final tip is always have clear systems on how you're running your classroom. That will cut down on a lot of activities that are off task. So 3 things we talked about today: preparation, cognitive planning, physical planning, charts prepared ahead of time. It will make your lesson go smoothly. Secondly, pace. You want to make sure that you are going through your lesson with the appropriate rhythm and pace and not having extra dilly-dally time. I think dilly-dally is still a word. And the last thing is always have clear systems and how everything is handled in the classroom, from proofreading pens to where papers go, to where pencils go, to how you walk in the classroom, to how you walk out of the classroom. Everything has to be clear. Now, not every class needs this, because not every class is a challenging class, but it helps to have clarity on the specifics on what is expected of students. And I guarantee you that you will thrive. I hope that these ideas were helpful today. Shakanaka.